What's going on, Celtics fans? Welcome into Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Allie Barefoot, and on today's episode, we're going to be breaking down your reactions to the lack of moves from Brad Stevens by the NBA trade deadline. Of course, he did make one trade. He did trade Jaden Springer to the Houston Rockets on Wednesday of this week in exchange for some draft picks. He did this to kind of shed some salary and really work on lowering the tax apron. Other than that, Brad Stevens stayed stagnant at the deadline, but not all NBA teams did. Let's hop into our first question here coming in from Nicholas Howerton. Celtics, even if Brad Stevens doesn't make a trade, do you think the Celtics are in dire need to make a trade? I do not, at least not for this year. I think the Boston Celtics have a beautiful lineup in terms of they played over more than 150 games together. Every other roster in the NBA will now have to adjust. They have to adjust the trades that came in, the trades that went out. So the Celtics do have an upper hand because they know the system. They know how to play with these guys. It's going to take some teams at least a month to find their rhythm with the new players that have entered and the new players and the old players that have left. If we want to talk about possible trades in the offseason, we can make a different video for that moving forward. Celtics City. I see it's the Western Conference teams making a majority of moves. Do you think it actually benefits Boston because we only see some of the Western Conference team about 1 to 2 times a year? I think there are pros and there are cons. For example, Caleb Martin, no longer in the Eastern Conference. He's now with the Dallas Mavericks. Jimmy Butler, no longer with the Miami Heat. He is now with the Golden State Warriors. Chris Middleton, no longer with the Milwaukee Bucks. He is now with the Washington Wizards, which doesn't make him as lethal to Boston when he was with the Bucks. So there are several players that moved around that have typically been known to be Celtics killers. But I also think in the Western Conference, when you make moves the way that the Lakers did, adding Luka Doncic, adding Mark Williams, I do think that this makes for a tougher series if you were to go head-to-head with the Thunder, the Lakers. Somebody in the Western Conference that's kind of known to give us a tough time, and the Lakers have beat us this year. So I think there's pros and cons to the Western Conference team making a lot of moves, but it will matter in the finals if the Celtics do get there again. Wolf Shark Kid coming in here. Celtics, by not making any trades, what changes to the lineup they're going to make? I don't think the Boston Celtics really need to do anything. I think we still have one of the best rosters in the NBA. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, Al Horford comes off the bench. Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard proving to be some of the best bench players in the NBA as well. So I think you keep the lineup the same. And once again, if things need to change, if we don't make it to the finals or we don't win back-to-back, then we make videos about that later on down the road. KW coming in here. One of my favorite questions on today's mailbag. How does DeAndre Hunter change the Cleveland Cavaliers? This is where it starts to get a little bit spicy from the Cavs. Yes, we did just beat the Cavaliers, but we have won twice against them this season and lost one. I think DeAndre Hunter fully healthy makes the Cleveland Cavaliers a lot scarier. This is somebody that can potentially really hurt the Celtics down the road in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I also did see this tweet here earlier this season that they say that DeAndre Hunter is going to be dominant against the Celtics. Keep in mind, in 12 games that Jason Tatum has played against DeAndre Hunter, he has scored 27.8 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. That's what he averages playing against DeAndre Hunter. Once again, I still think we have the most stacked roster in the NBA, but do not get it twisted. This does make the Cleveland Cavaliers a bit scarier to me in a 7-game series. Fortune 5 with the final question before I ask you guys. My first question of our mailbag is, #Celtics, now that we are halfway through the season, how do you see the Celtics in the second half? I actually think we're starting to hit our stride a little bit better in the second half of the season. We got Kristaps Porzingis back. He's playing some of his best ball right now. Derek White seems to be out of his slump. Holiday is getting over some injuries. Sam Hauser and Pritchard are getting back to being a little bit more consistent. Tatum taking over. I think this is where we really start to thrive. I think what's going to benefit the Celtics the most is the All-Star weekend. I think this team needs a break. Just a break away from ball. I know that Tatum and Brown will be playing in the All-Star weekend, but other than that, you might just need to rest. And I do think that this next half of the season, because like I said, Every other team in the NBA now has to adjust. The Celtics don't. And we can use that moving forward. So grade the Celtics trade deadline, A, B, C, D, or F. The only move that we made was Jaden Springer to the Rockets for a draft pick. We added no players to the roster this year. Let me go ahead and tell you guys real quick about our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America. I'm playing Prize Picks every single weekend, and I want you guys to play with me as well. You can pick collegiate and professional players and teams, and that way you guys can test out your ball knowledge and try and win some cash. All you guys have to do is just pick more or less on a player's projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. That's right, up to 1,000 times your money. The big game is happening this weekend. They're going to give you Patrick Mahomes to have 1 passing yard. Patrick Mahomes, this is an automatic guaranteed pick. So if you guys want an easy lock-in win, this is the pick I would choose. Obviously, take the more on this. So if you guys want to go on ahead and make your picks for the big game or any other regular season game moving forward for basketball, you can do so right now. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code CLNS. This will give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code CLNS. That'll give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Download the app and be sure to go on ahead and test out your skills with over 10 million active users. Another question coming in here from Ethan Gaming. Do you think that Brad Stevens likes what he sees? Is that why he did not make a trade? Partially. Brad Stevens, in my opinion, I think is one of the best GMs in the NBA. He just won Executive of the Year 2 seasons ago, or maybe last season. Brad Stevens does have faith in his roster, and there were players that were probably untouchable to teams like a Sam Hauser or a Neemias Queta, a Luke Cornett. But I also think he did the best he could with what he could. The Celtics don't have any money to spend. We are so well over the luxury tax line that even if we did sign anybody, it would have had to have been for the vet minimum. But with giving up Jaden Springer, the Celtics now have 2 weeks to sign a 14th player to the roster. They can either convert two-way players like a Drew Peterson and a J.D. Davison, or they can sign a vet minimum guy still. So we'll have to look at the buyout market. We'll have to look at the two-way players, but Brad Stevens does need to add somebody because they got rid of Springer. You can't have 13 players on your roster. So we'll have to wait and see if Brad Stevens has anything else up his sleeve. But until then, if anything does happen, we'll talk about it right here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. It'll be interesting, but I think we'll have to keep moving forward. Oh, look at that. What a fantastic question coming in here from yours truly. If you could have made an addition at the deadline, who would you have wanted? I probably would have wanted, obviously Walker Kessler was my top choice, but we kind of knew Walker Kessler was untouchable, but we still wanted to, at least see if it was possible to sweet talk Danny Ainge for a couple of draft picks. Gershon Yabusele was one that I liked and you guys liked a lot. A lot of articles recommended Eric Gordon and Taj Gibson. I think they're outdated. I think they're too old, but it just would have been a good depth veteran piece. And then Javonte Green was another player that I thought maybe Brad Stevens would bring back to Boston, but ultimately he just got rid of Jaden Springer, and that was the only move that he decided to make. Walker Kessler probably would have cost too much, and I think ultimately Utah Jazz said no to trading Walker Kessler. And Gershon Yabusele, we'll have to see if they even tried to go out and get the former Boston Celtic player as well. Nick Howardson, Holiday and White are a duo made in heaven on defense for the Celtics. Do you think the Celtics could recreate another duo in rim protection and joining KP in the paint? I would want to say that duo is Al Horford when we do go big, heavy lineups at Horford at the 4 and KP at the 5. But unfortunately, they don't really play together too much. And I think if the Celtics did want to add another center, I thought a Gershon Yabusele would have been a really good opportunity to have that kind of power. But right now, I think you're just looking for a strong, powered 4, which I think Jason Tatum is. So Yes, I do think that should be in the future if they decide to keep Kristaps Porzingis after the 2026 season. But overall, never underestimate Brad Stevens. He always has a move that is, one step ahead of where the Boston Celtics fans typically are, including myself. So, with that being said, Brad Stevens did not make a move by the NBA trade deadline in terms of adding any extra players from outside the Celtics franchise. They just let go of Jaden Springer. So other than that, it just looks like we're going to stay stagnant and see if the Celtics can end up trying to snag anybody moving forward here. Overall, I'm okay with standing put. Feel free to not ask that question. I can just verbally ask it. Should Boston add players in the buyout market? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you guys think Boston should add players in the buyout market? Type Y for yes, type in for no. We should have a video coming out pretty soon here on players available in the buyout market for the Boston Celtics, but we're going to have to wait and see what Brad Stevens decide to do. Nonetheless, thank you guys to everybody who tuned in and joined me here live for the NBA trade deadline. If you guys haven't already, go on ahead, hit that sub button for me. And as always, go Celtics.